What makes Highland Home different than any other builders? I got that question over the years many times. What makes us different is our plans. They're not just beautiful, they're functional, and our homes are livable. So from the very big, comfortable living spaces or very functional kitchens, and everything is designed with you in mind. We're offering 1 and 2 store floor plans. We start at 1,600 square feet and we go up 3,200 square feet. Our 1,600 square feet has 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and we go up to 5 bedrooms and 4 full baths. We're offering new to-be-built homes. By choosing that, you can choose your own lot. You're also gonna go to Design Center and choose your own colors and put your own touches on your beautiful next Highland home, making very unique and very personable to you. Come and see it for yourself. Highland Homes, how trust is built.
Well, welcome to another live stream production presented by Platinum Top 50. My name is Amber Thomas. I'm the president and CEO of PT50. I am joined by 3 award-winning agents from Platinum Top 50, and we've gathered today to talk about the market shifting in Austin, Texas. I think it's only fair that we timestamp this as August 2020 because, as we know, the market in Austin changes, if not weekly, certainly by months. So the conversation that we're going to be having today is relevant as of August of 2022. So why we're doing this? Well, Platinum Top 50 has a commitment to our award-winning agents, to our audience, to our network, to bring you quality programming and content. And given where the market's been the last 2 years and what we're seeing right now with regards to interest rates, inflation, supply and demand is changing, there's a lot of shift going on. And we've had a lot of agents reach out to us and say, hey, Platinum Top 50, can you please bring this content to the forefront so we can all get on the same page as one industry together? So it's our pleasure to bring you this programming. A little bit about what we're going to cover. I'll give you a preview. We're going to talk about using data to adjust expectations. You guys know better than I do that setting the right expectations with your buyers and sellers up front is half the battle. So how can we use data to do that? We're going to talk about communication with buyers and sellers because we know sometimes that they think they know, but maybe they don't know as much as you do, and what those challenging conversations look like. Certainly, you have all expressed also that pricing is something that is challenging given where the market's been in the last 2 years and where it is now. So we're going to talk about some pricing strategies. We're also going to talk about market segmentation because what is true for luxury homes may or may not be true for homes priced in the 700s. What's true for a home in Lago Vista, where we're at, or Round Rock may not be true for Central Austin. So we're going to talk about market segmentation and stratification. And lastly, we are going to talk about just getting back to the basics. The last 2 years have been a roller coaster, if nothing else, with highs and lows and fast turns. And so as the market is starting to shift, a lot of what agents are reminded of is how to get back to the basics and what that looks like and what pre-pandemic basics were that are now relevant again given today's market shift. So that's just a little bit about what content and conversations we're going to be having. I'd be remiss if I did not thank our partners who are underwriting this for us. So on behalf of Highland Homes, who is today's live stream panel, thank you so much. As well as a big shout out to our partners at South Star Bank. I am personally a member of South Star Bank, and they are great for all of your portfolio loans, among other things. And also Total Pro Flooring, Chad and his team with their commitment to serving agents and their clients with really great service and high quality flooring products. So thank you to Highland Homes, South Star Bank, and Total Pro Flooring. All right, it's time to meet today's panelists. because I often think that it's great to get a little glimpse into the backgrounds and the experiences that today's award-winning agents have as we head into the conversation that I just gave you a preview of. So let's go ahead and Jenny, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience and telling them a little bit about your real estate career?
I'm Jenny Law with Kuper Sotheby's. I've been in real estate for a little over 2 years. So, it'll be interesting to hear about what what agents used to do before the boom, this crazy, market takeoff, because for me, that's all I know.
And I love that. And Platinum Top 50 wants to have diversity of inputs and perspectives. So as someone who is recognized as Platinum Top 50's Newcomer of the Year, to agents who are more seasoned, I love having a diversity of perspective to make for a really great conversation. So welcome, Jenny, and thank you for your time. Mike, you want to go ahead?
Sure, I'm Mike Mogavero. I'm with Compass, and I've been in real estate for a long period of time, but as an agent for just a couple of years as well. And I have an experience as a salesperson for over 30 years, primarily in the tech space before coming to real estate. Wife's an architect and a builder, so all in the family with kind of vertically integrated building and selling of real estate.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Dillar.
Hello there, I'm Dillar. I'm owner of the Dillar Group with Keller Williams. I've been in the business really since 2013, started full-time selling in about 2018, and then I'm also an investor in the local market here and real estate coach. So look forward to this conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for your time. As busy award-winning agents, I know that time is very valuable, so it's not lost on me and it's not lost on our audience that you've given your time for this. So let's go ahead and dig into today's conversation. All right, so we're talking about the market shift, which is a broad term, that we are hearing often used. And I think that in order to understand where we're at now and where we're seeing this shift, it's important that we kind of benchmark this with perspective of the past, right? I gave the analogy of being on a roller coaster when COVID hit, and it was this and that, and y'all did all these loops and fast spins. And so now we're kind of entering into like a slower turn, right? So Dillar, I want to ask you, how would you describe the Austin real estate market 2021, 2022? And do you have any facts or figures you can share that help illustrate what this mayhem kind of looked like?
I do, and I know you asked me to bring something, so I brought a great example of the market.
Fabulous.
And this was the best thing I could come up with because it was all over the place. So, the market shifted. It didn't really go up or down or side to side. It went everywhere, and I think that was a really fast adjustment for all agents to make. And it wasn't just prices. It was, we had people getting sick. We had conditions that we weren't used to being able to show. We didn't even know if we were able to show homes for a few months with the city not establishing quickly that we were a vital role in the community. So across the board, everyone was trying to figure out what to do. Clients were trying to figure out what to do, and then how to actually navigate through that, and not just from, like I said, like a pricing standpoint. It was physically, how are we going to do our jobs? So it was a hard, quick shift for a lot of us. And then it was a very booming year for new agents to come into the market to learn something that there wasn't really a lot of space for mentorship either. It was like, we don't know, prices are just $100,000, inflated overnight. It was definitely an interesting period, I think, for everyone, seasoned agents, new agents, our clients, and our city.
I mean, unprecedented in a number of different ways. And surely as relocation started picking up and we started seeing East Coast and West Coast, and Austin becomes the fastest growing city, and all of the mayhem around what was really the growth, right? Just the exponential growth that Austin, certainly that had to have an impact on the ways in which y'all were working with your clients, working behind the scenes, whether it be through pricing or marketing. So, how did that overheated, escalating market affect the way that you as an agent did your job?
Typically we always say actually that, the news pretty much predicts things about 3 months after, and we're in the heat of it, of an uncharted territory. And what I saw behind the scenes as an agent was a lot of masterminding, a lot of private groups splitting off of this is how we're going to navigate now. We had more off-market groups than ever because of the low inventory. And then on the contract side, everything went out the window with what we knew. Common sense negotiations were out the window, and trying to show up to a client and with actual data was really hard. A lot of stuff it felt like you were just grasping for. So I felt like we really had to rely on our industry partners. We had to rely on each other, and we had to act so fast.
Well, learning in real time is never an easy thing. And, you hit on agent to agent relationships, you hit on, communications, because there just wasn't a lot in MLS to go off of. And so certainly some of those more traditional habits that you as agents were accustomed to went out the window, not because they weren't useful anymore. It was just given the speed at which things were moving and changing, it was no longer relevant to the present. So it's not to say that those aren't still useful now, they just weren't useful then. But we're entering a stage where they're making their triumphant return. Now let's hear from Total Pro Flooring, a great Platinum Top 50 partner with a proven commitment to serving real estate agents and their clients at the highest level.
Hi, my name is Chad Tafts, owner and operator of Total Pro Flooring. Total Pro Flooring has been a sponsor of the Platinum Top 50 and award-winning agents for the last 8 years. We're starting our 9th year this year. We're very committed to providing the best service and satisfaction to all of our agents and their clients and other homeowners. We have 14 teams that we operate with. We can do a lot of business in a short time, which is another benefit to our agents. We have over $1 million worth of inventory that we keep on hand so we can move quickly on projects that our agents need us to move on for buying or selling. We're very committed to our agents and making sure they're happy. We have a lot of 5-star reviews. And if you're not doing business with Total Pro Flooring, you're doing business with the wrong people.
So Jenny, as a newer agent in the last 2 years, as someone who's had great mentorship along the way, I would love to know, what do you think are some bad habits that should be left in 2021? And what I mean by that is not to say that agents weren't doing things right. You were working with really challenging conditions, doing the best you could given extreme circumstances. So when I say bad habits, it's not that they were wrong, it was just you were surviving, right, in that. And so now, though, that we're entering a little bit of a shift or a slowdown, and the pendulum of seller and buyers, is changing, what do you think should be left in 2021 that maybe, from today moving forward isn't as successful?
I started in real estate where I had to write offers in cars, like in my car. Like I had my laptop, and then we'll go see a home. And they were like, okay, now offer deadline is in 2 hours. Let's write this offer, And I remember this one weekend, I wrote like $6 million of offers in my car, right? Thankfully that, now it's not like that anymore. But along with that, that short time that you have to submit an offer, especially for me, someone who was new and mostly representing buyers at the time, you just have to do best and final, but you don't have time to really do much research. Like running comps is like so important, and especially now, like definitely with this market shift, I think running comps and doing your due diligence to make sure that the price is priced correctly and you offer appropriately based on the market comps, it's really important. It's more important than ever. Whereas during the peak, I think certain agents would just write 100K over ask, and then they don't even realize that they're the first offer and no one else has offered.
So maybe just realizing that now you can breathe a little bit.
Yes.
And you do have time to give the advice and counsel that you are so known for, and that's really what the profession is built on. You mentioned in our kind of preparation for this secret groups and sharing of MLS. So how has that changed since the market has shifted?
We've reached to a point where the home prices are at a level where people are not jumping on it immediately. So we do have that time to wait for properties to actually go live on the market and see how the showings are and the interests are before putting in an appropriate offer for that property. So I think, that certainly has changed.
So the reaction time has seemingly you're able to pause and react a little bit more slowly or appropriately. Dillar, before I move on to Mike, I mean, being someone who teaches agents at Keller Williams, given your experience too, pre-pandemic and during and post, are there some habits that you think, should be left back in 2020 or 21, or just some more awareness of now as we move forward, what kind of undoing of some things should we be mindful of?
Yeah, I think one of the best things is we actually get to use the tools. We have the time to use the tools, which are going back to running comparative market analysis, learning the proper way to run one, using the MLS as a tool, properly marketing listings. We really didn't even put a sign in the yard for a while. It was who you knew. You could just text a group of agents and you would have a contract. Where now we really get to benefit off of properly marketing, using the MLS, using our CMAs, networking, using our referral and our vendor partners. And so going back to the sense of community that we have as an agent and leaning on everything.
Do you think open houses and property tours are making their way back, or is that something that maybe isn't as popular as it once was?
I think open houses are a great source for leads and lead generation, getting to know the neighbors, once again, building your community. I don't really know that I've ever believed that open houses sell homes, but I think there's a place for them in the market. I think property tours are also a great way for agents to get to know each other, because our relationships are so important in this business, and our mindset. There's 20,000 of us here in Central Texas, so we're all in it together. And if we can continue to do activities to network and grow, it just, I don't know, it makes a better environment for us to operate in.
100%. Well, it always has been a business of people, and especially the relationships that you have is a large part of the value that you bring to your clients. So remembering that now you do have time for that. If you call it networking, I just call it relationship building. Right. And at Platinum Top 50, we're here to make meaningful connections in real estate because they matter. So I love that both of you touched on that. All right, let's transition now to the present, where we're at. And Mike, I would love to know, what challenges are you confronted with, kind of given the shift in the market?
Dillar, can you pass the prompt?
I know, Dillar. Yeah, you brought it as an analogy. No, you brought it as an analogy, but the analogy was lost. Yeah, exactly.
I better get going.
Okay, all right. Well, I was prepared to take a swig if you were, but I guess we'll save that for post-production.
All right, so what challenges?
Yeah, in the aftermath, where you're at now, what feels like it's a new challenge that maybe wasn't a challenge 6, 12, 18 months ago?
Sure. Yeah, so now in adjusting expectations and delivering more reality, which often translates as bad news to a seller, right? So you thought your property would sell for X, and now maybe it's going to sell for something less than that, and how do you justify that price? So people in the past, I felt like you priced with some level of appreciation as part of the pricing expectation. Now you have to price potentially with some level of depreciation in their minds, even though it's actually appreciation from where we were, and it's still a healthy number. But that level of a 40% year-over-year appreciation and kind of resetting those expectations and getting people back to a point where they really understand that the normal level of appreciation is still okay, and that interest rates, I often talk to clients who anticipate a sub 3% interest rate, and they think that now 5% is just incredibly high, and then kind of giving them a little bit of a history lesson of where interest rates have been traditionally, and that we're still in a very good and a very favorable interest rate market. So those kinds of conversations are ones that we haven't had to have. And then also, I think as an agent, it's important for us to sort of pull back on our expectations, right? So I think, for a while it was like, hey, how many listings can you get? And now it's like telling my clients, let's hold off maybe potentially right now. And I want your listing, I want to sell your home, but it's August in Austin. It's not the best time, given sort of the optics of the market, and maybe if we held off a month or two, maybe even until the spring, and that's okay, right? Well, your house will sell. It's a beautiful home, or maybe we can use this as an opportunity to do some make-ready work or things like that. But kind of use this as an opportunity to really perfect our go-to-market and really have an opportunity to put our clients and our best foot forward.
So you mentioned, right, normal levels of appreciation, which normal is so relative. So at the height, what Austin experienced, 40% more or less.
Yes.
Where are we kind of sitting at today?
Yeah, so I think it's really a matter of, if you draw a linear growth curve for appreciation and sort of lop off part of a lot of what happened last year as an anomaly. And so if we look at sort of the normal 8 to 12% appreciation year over year, I think that's sort of a normal expectation, but you kind of have to account for last year's growth as an anomaly and potentially price in below what that would have come in last year.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, in statistician world, you have outliers, and you get rid of the outliers to find like what is like the true, mean or average. So that makes sense. You made an interesting comment. You mentioned that we've allowed consumers to drive pricing, and that's a problem, that it created a guessing game. So could you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so that kind of, as Alan Greenspan labeled it, that irrational exuberance, and clients having, their concern was always, where do I go, right? So we had to look at that comment, which is a very valid one, of where do I go? So we really need to price that into a home. But now the question, you can ask themselves the same question, where do I go? And just as you thought that maybe you didn't have the opportunity on the buying side, you now have a better opportunity on the buying side. So it all sort of works its way out the same. And so it just, at the end of the day, the pricing exercise and allowing clients to price things without having proper data is doing a disservice. So we just gather our data, have as much information, not just about their CMA, but about the market in general, both on a Austin level and on a macro level. And I think at the end, if we apply the appropriate data, we show our expertise and allows us to be better realtors.
Well, and there's data too that you can find on mortgage and interest rates, and
Sure.
That, to your point, the data doesn't lie. So I think in some of those hard conversations, that can be some of your best friends. And I think that's a great transition, because there are challenging conversations that y'all are having with your clients, and it's not to like discredit them. They're living their lives, hearing from neighbors, hearing from friends at work, reading the paper, watching the news. And so they only know what they know. And then you guys come in, which you mentioned as doom and gloom, but it's not. It's just the factuals of where we're at now. So I would love to know, and obviously those tough conversations are on both sides. Some buyers think, oh, interest rates are so high. Now I'm gonna wait until they lower. Okay, well, let's come in and educate you there. And obviously sellers also with pricing and days on market, there's expectations on both sides. So Jenny, let me start with you, right? And let's talk about buyers. What are some of those conversations that you're having with your buyers about today's market, where you feel like you're really having to educate them in areas where maybe they're not as well current as they think they are?
I mean, a lot of it is interest rates. Everyone is like, well, do you think if we wait for the interest rates to drop, like we will get, a better deal later? I was like, it's always balance, If you think about it, when interest rates drop, everybody's going to try to purchase those homes, hence you get the multiple offers and the higher price. Now, when your interest rates are high, you go in, you have negotiating power, right, with the seller, and you can always refinance later, once the interest rates drop. So I always tell them, stop focusing on the interest rates so much and just focus on, the current house that you want to purchase, and focus on, what brings that negotiating leverage for you. And I think that's more important than just how high interest rates are.
Yeah, you're right. One of our lender partners, great partners, PT50, their catchphrase is, you marry the home, you date the rate, right? And it makes sense, right? Let's find you the home that you want, and the interest rate is something that's variable. And they have tons of historical data that shows, and truly that, home purchase is such a great hedge on inflation historically. And so I think, to your point, Mike, there's great things that you can bring in to show your clients and then send them over to your favorite preferred lender to really do that deep dive into it. But certainly adjusting those expectations, and there is an upside to the interest rate increase. There is. It's doing what it's designed to do, which is to cool things off.
Yes.
Like, it is supposed to do that. We expected this to happen. And here's where the advantage is for that in terms of less competition among buyers. So, Dillar, let's talk about sellers, right? Who some would say are sometimes a little bit more challenging. How do you approach those hard conversations with them?
We know what sellers are going to say before we show up to that appointment. So my approach is going in, knowing their objection, meet them where they're at, and don't let it impact the way that you do your job. As a real estate agent, we're marketing specialists, we're somehow local economists, we're supposed to be photographers at times, we're stagers. We wear so many hats and we can get lost. Where right now you really have to funnel this down and go in and know that it's gonna be a fight, right? We know that, and toss that objection aside and go in with your facts, go in with your data. And one of the biggest things for me is I like to talk to everyone who's been in the industry longer than I have, and a lot longer than I have, so that I can talk to them about, what does this look like for you? Tell me from experience, and approach it with knowledge, stand your ground, and just know that 15 days ago was a total different market, and you're gonna get the pushback. Don't let it beat you down. Go in with the right mindset.
You said it's going to be challenging. Like what challenges are you expecting? Like, what are some of these common seller challenges you're confronting, and coming from someone who doesn't do the day-to-day that you do?
Right, like I said earlier, our consumers don't really hear what we're facing. It's about, their information is about three months delayed from what the news is reporting, as well as with social media and everything else. They're just hearing a lot of background noise, and you have to bring your seller so laser focused to, this is what's happening really within like a quarter of a mile of your house. That's how laser focused you have to get. And you have to realize, pricing off of another agent who was on the market 30 days before, you've really just got to rip that Band-Aid off and have tough conversations with your client. COVID was hard, the pandemic was hard, that market was hard, this one's hard. It's all going to be hard. It's the way that we navigate through it.
That was great advice, though, like the geographical, like that's how close. I mean, you're not talking about, a 5-mile radius. I mean, what did you say, a quarter mile?
Yeah, laser focus that to a quarter of a mile based on the area you're looking at, and really just try to shift your client's focus to you as the expert. And we're talking about what's going on right here. Turn off the news. If you're hiring me, you need to listen. This is our story.
Well, and I'd imagine too, not every client is a good client. So you have to know and be confident in what you're presenting, and know where to bend and where not to bend, and be willing to walk away. I mean, do you walk away if sellers aren't flexible?
Yeah, it's to me, it's a marriage. It's 45 days, 50 days, and now it's probably 180 days. And who wants to work with someone that doesn't want to work with you? Right? The pie in Austin, Texas or surrounding is big enough for all of us to have our own business. And Mike just touched on it too. It was easy to have all of this inbound business for a while, and now it takes a little bit more. Right. And if you're not set up to service the clients that way, you may need to re-look at your business, re-look at your systems, look at your partners who are around you. And don't be afraid for the tough conversations. I like to walk in my listing appointment and, swallow the frog, approach the hardest thing first. And then really, this is a relationship business that we get back to. In 2020, 2022 or 2021, whatever, I feel like there wasn't a lot of relationship building with some clients because it was so fast.
Right.
And now it's relationship building, it's trust, it's follow-up, and a lot of stats.
And now let's hear from South Star Bank, a wonderful partner of PT50, specializing in those tricky portfolio loans.
Hi, I'm Jim Trungale with South Star Bank, and this is my colleague, Greg Vesely. we're happy to be here today and glad to partner with PT50 again on such an important topic today. This market is changing as we all know it. It's constantly changing and really changing faster than I've ever seen. I've been doing mortgage business for more than 30 years, and we're seeing interest rates move as much as 0.5% on any given day. That's causing a lot of confusion amongst our clients and your clients. And we'd love to help answer some of the questions of some of the mystery, take some of the mystery out of what's going on in the market. Inflation is a hot topic these days. Some of the news came out recently and it's come down a little bit in the last month, but still that's not going to hold off some more interest rate hikes from the Fed. And when those hikes go up, the interest rates go up. And so we offer some solutions to customers that other banks don't, in that we offer traditional financing and we also offer portfolio lending. Greg's our portfolio expert, so he's going to take a few minutes to tell you about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Thank you very much. So part of our portfolio solution is we do all of the lot, land financing, farm and ranch, construction lending. We do a lot of 1 to 4 family for investors. And what a portfolio loan means is that we hold the loan on the bank's books and balance sheet. So we have our own underwriting criteria and guidelines. I'm the underwriter with the file, so everything's very streamlined throughout the process. So if you or your clients are looking for a solution, a lending solution, whether it's traditional financing that Jim would do, or if they're struggling to get that type of financing and need a portfolio loan, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions you may have. Thank you all, and we appreciate the partnership. Have a great day.
Thanks.
So now, Mike, like what kind of metrics are you using to make your case in point? Like what are your fallbacks on? That's, these don't lie. This is why I'm giving you this particular advice. What does some of those look like?
I like how I'm the stats guy.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. I think the audience would agree. You're the good statistician guy.
Well, first of all, I'd say just that this is an opportunity for us. 2 years of running in place and writing offers in cars, gives us now a little bit of that breathing room to get good habits formed and, to build a practice that's sustainable and one that's not, just based on running as fast as you can. So that's a good thing. And, but as far as statistics goes, I rely upon, I look at any of the economists that I see when there is a report that comes out from the title companies. I definitely read through those thoroughly to try to understand broader economic factors that I can sort of incorporate into my messaging to clients. I'm not an economist. I don't pretend to be one, and I certainly use those like a Mark Sprague report or something to look at that data and that information to bring to my clients, because that's the best that we have, right? And I don't look at, if you look at any economist who wants to try to tell you what the market is, we know that they're going to be partially wrong and partially right? But it's just data. As far as individual data, we're at a market right now where I looked at the report that Eric Bramlett sends out a great newsletter, so props to him. That is great data that we can rely upon, and you can look at. I looked at it this morning, from month to month, how quickly that data has changed.
So you're looking at what, days on market? You're looking at new listings. You're looking at number of price adjustments. Like, what are the actual data points?
Yeah. So the number of withdrawals, the number of pendings.
Okay, wait. Let me pause you there. Number of withdrawals. What are you interpreting from that?
I'm interpreting people who have stale listings, who have no longer, who are pulling their houses off the market and waiting to sell, or have decided that they would prefer not to sell at this time.
Okay.
And they are kind of on pause until they make that decision. But that really, so the inventory number, now we're at 3.5 months versus where we were last year at this time, half a month, right? So that when combined with withdrawals, the number is actually is actually higher, right? So we need to look at that. And so when we're having those conversations with our sellers, we're our buyers. The buyers have the opportunity now, more so. I'm not saying it's entirely a buyer's market, but it is certainly more of a buyer's market. And the sellers we need to bring that data to them and show that we have, not only are we seeing this number, which is still a relatively low number, but when you look at the acceleration of the number, that really speaks more to the volume. So that kind of looking at the month over month statistics and showing those to our clients versus looking at it as a point in time, and right now is very important because it's very fluid.
What about days on market?
Sure, days on market's very important, right? If we looked at these between the secret groups where there was hypothetically no days on market or days on market only in the private market, or the days on market on the MLS, we need to see how that is shifting. And so that, Zillow came out with Redfin's report this morning also came out that said that 61% of listings nationwide are now considered stale listings. In Austin, that is about 50%, and meaning still listings to them, I believe, are 21 days. So we're definitely in a shift to see that and to look at that number as it's growing. And it's not necessarily, I don't like to deliver too much information to clients, but I like to deliver enough information to justify an appropriate decision.
Yeah. So you said 21 days, kind of, they call it stale, right? Dillar, you mentioned earlier, you said that, if you're entering into a relationship with a new client, you're looking at now like 180 days. So is that from start to finish? And I guess where I'm getting at is what's a reasonable days on market now? How do you factor that in?
I honestly don't think, like, as of right now, if we were to be in a listing appointment, you can give an exact day. I think you have to look at really where are we trending towards, and that's something that talking about habits and exactly what Mike is saying, we have to get back in the habit of understanding stats. We didn't. If you were a new agent the past 2 years, you didn't really have to look at what the market was doing. You just found a house, went and showed it, and wrote an offer and hoped for the best, right? Well, now we have to understand the stats that Mike is saying. I think that there's a population of agents who don't even know what an expired or withdrawn listing is, and so understanding the stats. But going back to the question, going into listing appointments right now, you have to be pretty clear with your sellers that this is all new data and we're in it together.
Yeah. And I guess the reason I'm asking, so Joel Liebernight, another great award-winning agent from Austin, we were doing a Facebook Live conversation talking about adjusting expectations with sellers, and some of them were freaking out if after the first weekend, there weren't multiple offers. And with, the big interest rate hike that we had, and my understanding that usually takes about 90 days for the waves to kind of, settle down, it was really just about adjusting those expectations for days on market. So that being a challenging conversation, what would you be saying to a seller now who wants to know, well, how soon should I expect us to have contracts? Like how do you respond to that?
I had this conversation on the way here. I went live with a listing about 30 days ago, and there were about 4 comps. And right now, when I checked it yesterday, there are 65 listings within half of a mile that fall into the same buyer pool. And so it's stats. It's saying I don't have a pretty chart for you. I'm sorry. I really just don't have the perfect chart for you. But what I can show you is that when I came on this listing appointment, we didn't have this much inventory. And 65 is a crazy number, and it's Hayes County, right? And so what can we do? We can look at marketing. We can come up with a new, try a new plan. But at the end of the day, I need you to stick in this relationship with me. Our new average day on market has changed. It went from about 30 to 77, and I'm just like, we're just marking these marks. And also just providing a lot of feedback. I know sometimes agents don't really want to give feedback, but right now it helps. It helps to be able to say, Mike showed my listing and this is what he has to say. And so far, I'm not getting any pushback on prices from other agents. It's buyers have choices now.
Exactly.
And being transparent with your clients.
Yeah, I think we have that. We owe that to each other too. I mean, I'll ping an agent after they've shown one of my listings, and I really appreciate when they respond, and I find it very frustrating when they don't respond.
That's another habit. We're working our way through the
there you
habits.
go. That's another example of like a great habit, right? Where it's like, I need feedback to give my sellers, where you usually didn't have feedback. You were just presenting them with a spreadsheet of offers.
Right.
So like, help me with that. That's another
I
great
didn't want
takeaway.
feedback from the line of agents standing out my listing for 2 hours.
Yes.
Like I got it. It was great. And now it's, you may go 5 days without a showing, and everything is helpful to each other right now.
Right. And I think price point also has a huge factor in how long that property is going to stay on the market. I mean, for me, with my sellers, I look at how many actives are in my community. Right now, there are 42 active listings for example, in my community. I look into the specifics of the home, how updated it is, how move-in ready it is. Does it have a pool? Does it have a view? That all factors into the pricing. So it's not just based on the size, but it's based on, what that home has to offer, right? Mm-hmm. And I price it competitively based on that. And so even though there is a slight market, shift, as we call it, my past 2 listings had multiple offers, more than 100K over ask, off the market in a couple days. But again, that's, and people are like, how did you do it? I'm like, because I priced it well. I priced it competitively. I mean, now, buyers, they have choices, but they also have time to think about it, right? Does this price make sense? Like, it's more like logical versus emotional right now. And buyers have that luxury of trying to decipher which way they want to go towards, whether it's logically makes sense from a financial standpoint, or they're just so in love and they don't have the time to think about it and they just need to make the jump.
That's great feedback. I mean, just in my perspective, I just keep on thinking of a scale, in the last 2 years, it's been weighted this way, right? And we're still nowhere near like a balanced scale. So even just the perspective of saying like, but now, buyers they have some skin in the game.
Yeah. Right.
And another thing I think, like Victor Nino today, he's a top agent with Keller Williams. He said something that really hit home with me is we really need to get back to talking to sellers about, do they want to sell or do they need to sell? Because this isn't the market to want to sell and really try to capitalize like you could have a few months ago even. And so going into those listing appointments, really finding out seller motivation is going to be extremely important.
Right. And what can they live with? Right. So from a pricing standpoint, and if they tell you a number and it's not realistic, you gotta give them the news and say, but if they give you a realistic number that they can live with, it's something that, we can as agents can promote and likely be successful for them.
Well, and I think too, we've been talking about agents who are newer agents, and again, only just have one certain perspective. So they're not to discredit that perspective, but this idea though that not every client's a good one, and it's going to cost you time and money if you try to give them what they want when the data and what you're training, tells you otherwise. So, that's something I think a lot of people are really learning for the first time for themselves.
For sure.
All right, let's talk about market segmentation. We've kind of tiptoed our way into it. And stratification, right? Because within the Austin real estate market, and I use air quotes on that because there's a huge degree of difference in price points and in locations and in products. So the market itself is very, stratified. And it's still moving fast, right? So I guess my question is, and one for all three of you, what are you seeing that is still moving fast, right? What are you seeing that might be slowing down, or where traffic is or isn't? Are there certain price points or parts of town or products that you're seeing one way or another? And I think that just makes for great conversation for everyone to be having, because numbers and data are great, but that looks at everything as a whole. And, to kind of have some subcategories, I think would be helpful. So who wants to start?
I can. So I'd say that the luxury market in Austin is still strong. This is a great place to be for people who have come here for the reasons that they came here in the past, which is a great business climate, a very entrepreneurial city, a city with a great labor pool, and a highly educated city. And so people are still coming here to capitalize on opportunity. And that is what Austin brings in a city that's welcoming, friendly, diverse, interesting.
So before you go on to the next one, because I don't want to cut you off, I want you to keep going. But all right, luxury, another one of those elusive words. Right now, given 40% appreciation, and I mean, luxury used to be $2 million. What is luxury now?
So luxury for me is in part defined by price, but it's also in part defined by product and location. So price is usually the gating factor, and I probably anything 3 million and above would be considered a luxury space for me. As far as location goes, it's the most desirable areas are still in central Austin and on the lake, and those places will command a higher price point, and they are limited commodities because there's just not a lot of inventory there still, and there won't be.
That was
There's
the
a lot of
second
demand.
part to what I wanted to touch on was you said, it's still strong.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, strong for who? Not for listing agents. It's really challenging.
Sure.
There's still a ton of buyers there. So,
Yeah.
still a lot of demand and short on supply.
Yeah.
I guess in that kind of 3 million more or less like category.
Sure, but at the end of the day, you have to look at real estate is about a lifestyle, right? So if you have product that's still priced appropriately, right? So just luxury means something that is relatively turnkey or has the ability to become turnkey with some amount of work. So it's, to me, where I see a lot of success on listings or an opportunity or a product that's just really good. And so, I mean, that sounds obvious or, not particularly interesting, but it's just that is in those areas, in those markets, the product has to have something that's compelling, whether it's a great product from a layout standpoint, it's got a view, it's well done architecturally, it's got a great floor plan. So those things are, for us, things that we have to understand. It's not so much about the price point, it's what's compelling about the product. And in that luxury space for the discerning buyer, that is what we are positioning for our clients.
All right. What would you say is a challenging kind of segment then?
Challenging segment is the particularly in the like probably in the $500 to $1 million space. That to me seems like there's a lot of inventory. The market is very competitive in that space, and there's some pretty good product in that space, like from a that's been renovated or investors have had an opportunity to put their hands on it and make a good product. But there's quite a bit of inventory, and that gives the buyer the opportunity to be more discerning about their selection. And they're also making a larger investment, relatively speaking. So it's probably a first-time buyer or a move-up buyer or a millennial coming to Austin. I think it's particularly competitive for sellers.
Well, and that makes sense. I was just thinking about, I'm sure that's probably like disproportionately, but affected with interest rates, right? Like in
For
there,
sure.
because there's definitely like that variable matters more there than it does.
Less of a cash component.
Less in the cash. All right. What about Jenny, Dillar? Whether it be price, products, parts of town, like what are y'all seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays everyone's looking for that turnkey property. They don't want to do the renovations. They don't want to, basically they want a flawless property these days, and that's what I've seen. That's where the trend has been going. Now, in terms of interest rate, I do think that interest rate has a huge impact on the different sectors. Anything, from what I noticed, anything under 1.8 million, I feel like there has been a slight slowdown because of interest rates, and that, the clientele within that price point, they're more affected by interest rates than ones that are over that one, at least for me, that 1.8 million. Now, what defines as luxury now versus what defines as luxury like maybe 2 years ago are completely different. When I first started, which was 2 years ago, even when I had an $800,000 client, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. At $1 million, I'm like, oh my God, I've made it, right? Now someone comes to me, they're like, my budget is 2.5 million. I'm like, really? Can you push that? That's going to be challenging. Can you push that up a little?
It's changed a lot in a short amount of time. Right.
Yeah, and I think for that higher price point, it may not seem like as effective, but I think, and I could be wrong because I'm so new, but based on what I've seen before, that ultra lux, like maybe like 5 to 10 or higher, they tend to sit on the market a little longer. I don't think there's that much of a shift in terms of like time on market. I think it's just because at that price point you have a smaller pool of people that are looking, and then at the lower more affordable price points we have the people who are very heavily impacted by interest rates. So I think that's where we are now.
Well, and that makes for a great point also to mention to sellers, right?
I mean, building costs have gone up dramatically. So, I mean, that's something that we don't really have a lot of control over. And so when you're building a luxury home, the price to build per square foot also goes up. And I think in this market now, investors have kind of pulled back their appetite to buy, and that's only going to create less inventory down the line. So a buyer who really sees a good product is going to understand that, okay, well, I'm going to see fewer homes available, coming to market, less building is going to be happening. So all of those factors still, again, educating buyers on what they need to understand in that market is part of our job.
I love that. Dillar, what about you?
Yeah, I think there's a growing amount of opportunity in all of the small areas around Austin. I mean, we're here in Lago Vista, and in 2019, I don't know that many people were like, where's Lago Vista, right? And Cedar Creek, Del Valley, like these places are blowing up. My team has sold more homes in Jarrell and all the way down to New Braunfels than we did like in the heart of Austin in the past 2 years, which I think is beneficial to us because we have all of this local knowledge on these little areas that some agents, they're not going south of Slaughter, they're not going north of the river, where these little areas are really blowing up, and there's a lot of opportunity. I don't see San Marcos anymore as a college town. Right. We've placed so many homeowners out there and all across the board, from first-time homeowners to retirees, investors buying for students. And so I really think it's going to be beneficial for agents to get out there and learn other or local markets, surrounding Austin, and possibly joining other boards. I mean, we're a member of 4 different boards to service our clients. Oops, sorry. So I think the opportunity is we're going to have to expand. Austin is growing, so learning those other markets and not being afraid to push your clients in other areas. And then on the luxury standpoint, I think it's having a conversation with your client of what is their perception of luxury, because we know Austin luxury, and I think the stats are you have to sell a home over 700,000 in Travis County. I think it's like 4 to be in some of the luxury groups. She's saying that's her entry-level price point when she got her license 2 years ago. Right. So I think having that expectation and the agent removing their ego and asking their client, what is luxury? What features and benefits come? What are you looking for?
Well, I love that you touched on like expanding geographically. Platinum Top 50, we recently hosted a webinar for Austin agents that was called Selling San Antonio. And I had the idea because out of the blue, more and more agents in Austin were saying, hey, talk to me about like, where are those short-term rentals, or talk to me about investing there. And I mean, it makes sense as home values rose, as the cost of living here increases, especially for, clients, whether they're on a fixed income, or maybe it's just a certain stage of their life where they don't need all of the extras, right? There's so much equity in the homes. And there's tons of opportunity the further you get out for not just investment, but for relocations. And we had over 175 Austin agents.
Everyone has to hear Alexis Weekend talk.
Yeah, no, she was fabulous. But I mean, $2 million in San Antonio is like, you can get the bomb. I mean, you can be in like the Terrytown of San Antonio. on an acre with the pool. I mean, it's we're so close, but yet there's such a market difference. And so I love, though, Dillar, that you're hitting on that. And, submarkets of San Antonio, in that case, are Seguin. We've had Austin agents who are selling New Braunfels, Schwartz, Cibolo. So to your point, you mentioned earlier, I think you said 27,000 agents in Central Texas.
Yeah, there's 20,000 agents in Abor.
Oh my gosh. Well, it also, though, I cannot let this moment pass without saying that this is why Platinum Top 50 created award-winning agents, was to be a Central Texas platform for agents across the markets and within the sub-markets of Bernie, New Braunfels, Seguin, to be one part of one network. Because there's the degree of difference is a lot, and people's appetites, and again, the equity, and this is kind of like a look at the past, but where does the future? And a lot of people are finding themselves in positions that they didn't think they'd be in. Coming to you live from Lago Vista, today's panel was filmed at Lakeside at Tessera, inside the beautiful model home by Highland Homes.
My name is Branca, and I'm site agent for Highland Homes in Lakeside at Tessera. We are nested in the wild Balcones Preserve on Lake Travis. This community offers resort-style amenities, swimming pool, the boat ramp, walking trails, and many more. We would love to invite you to come to the community and see it for yourself. We're offering two size lots, 40s and 50s, and we have now 10 inventory homes coming up, starting at 409,000 and going up to mid 600s. We're also offering great agents and buyers incentives, 15,000 for buyers in closing cost and 5% commission for all agents. I look forward to seeing you soon, and we're so proud to be part of Platinum Top 50 and to work with the winning agents.
We've left many stones unturned in this conversation, but I do want to give you guys a chance to kind of send us out with something positive. I kind of like to call this, just like the open mic, right? So whether it's some advice that you have, an experience that you have, some wisdom or insights or opportunity, or just something that we haven't covered today that you think is important, that our awesome community of real estate agents could benefit from. Would love to just kind of leave this in time for some open mic. So speaking of open mic, Mike, yeah, what you got?
Well, I guess what I would say is, I alluded to this earlier. I've been a salesperson for a long time, probably the elder statesman here. And this, whenever there's an opportunity to look inward at yourself and your sales skills, your negotiation skills, your methodology, which is, I think, what we have right now, because it is an opportunity to kind of put things on pause more so than in the past, that is a positive thing for us. And we need to learn from our experience and how, if this is a job that we're committed to, which we are, and I know there's a lot of new agents who have come into Austin the last couple of years, but this is an opportunity to really learn from these last couple of years, perfect your craft, maybe do some additional CE, do some networking, learn from people like Dillar if you're doing coaching, or other coaches that are out there. Use this as an opportunity to really get good and hone in on this craft and have difficult conversations, connect with people, your peers, build your sphere, understand how you're going to go to market. And then from a client perspective or investor, Warren Buffett, we all know, when everybody else closes their checkbook, I open mine, right? And so this is a really good opportunity for people who still have built a lot of equity in their homes, to really look at it as an opportunity to price correctly, get on market, don't, pigs get slaughtered, right? So don't get greedy with it, but take that equity, take some chips off the table if you're able to, and then buy something else in a good market that is favorable toward buyers. So there is still lots of opportunity. Austin's a great place to be. It's very, very favorable to growth, and will continue to grow. I think we're lucky to be here, and we're lucky to be in a pool of, of great agents, and people like organizations like PT50 do give us that opportunity to network and build our businesses. So we should take that time to do that now.
I love that. Well, it's the whole old adage, now you have time to work on the business instead of in the business.
For sure.
Right? Take a little setbacks and work through the processes and the systems or the automation, hone in on some of those skills, learn new things. Like now there's time to do that, which has always been a part of what it takes to be successful. Right. It's just that for a little sliver of time, that there wasn't the time or the space or necessarily the need to do that. And as I'm listening to you talk too, it also, to me, I just keep thinking that this gives you all such a competitive edge. It is a competitive market within realtors and real estate. I mean, we're all friends and you learn from each other and you share, which is mind-blowing and amazing. And also it's highly competitive. And so I think, to know your data, know your facts, be confident, have the conviction that sets you in a place to really exemplify your craft in a way that in the last year and a half you haven't had to do. So I think it, can really separate, let the cream rise to the top, so to speak. So thank you for that. All right, Jenny.
I would say, take care of your listings. Stage it, market it, get professional photography, pay the 3% buyer's agent commission. Mm-hmm. Convince your clients, your sellers, to pay that 3% buyer's agent commission. We're just not in that market where sellers can get away with so many things anymore. And also, it's a time where you want to sound like more than just a salesperson. You want to understand the industry. You want to understand the market. You want to understand the local economy. You want to understand the national economy. And you want to understand the global economy and how all of that pulls together and how every single aspect affects each other. Real estate is going to affect overall the global economy, and you have to sound intelligent. You have to understand what you're saying and how to connect everything. Because at the end of the day, what goes up will come down. What comes down will go back up. Nothing is permanent, and we have to know how to be flexible and how to work around that, and not just be, so shocked by whatever the media tells us.
Well, that's great. And I love that you talk about even like the global economy, national, because had great conversations with several of our lending partners. Again, I just get to learn from y'all. All right. I'm not active in the industry doing what you do or on the lending side. So I just love that I get to be a sponge and absorb. But this idea though that yes, like inflation, but it's made up of an entire economy, right? With so many different sectors, and real estate is just one of those. That like this idea that inflation has this direct impact necessarily on the housing isn't the case. Now, yeah, if you just go back and look at 2008, but that was the cause of it, right? But if you go back and continue to look at when you have inflation or recessions, how real estate fares. I mean, so to your point, it's one part of a really intricate system that is an economy. And I think being able to explain that confidently to your clients will help put that into perspective when they usually think that the two are just like,
that's it.
Yeah, they're the only sectors that matter.
Exactly.
In that part.
You can't time the market.
Right.
Just no way to do it. You're never going to buy at the lowest point. You hopefully won't buy at the highest point. It's just the way it is. All over time, it all kind of equals out. If housing is a need, it's something that people buy because they need a place to live. It's something that is important to them. It's the usually the most significant financial investment they'll make. So it's not a market timing thing, but it is arming yourself with data and a good agent to help you with that.
I love that. Dillar?
Yeah, I think along with what Mike said, as far as working on your business, learning something new, Jenny touching on servicing your clients, shifting some of the inside tactics that you're doing. Work on yourselves as well. We're all in this together. Check your mindset and your ego in this business, because that energy that you put out there, everyone's going to feel it, whether it's to your clients, whether it's to another agent. And right now, the best thing we can do is all lean on each other and lean on each other really hard to get through this.
Well, and be a resource for one another, which again, I shouldn't be surprised now 12 years into this, but just how willing real estate agents are to share with one another, whether it be off-market comps that can be helpful, whether it's advice that what we're here to give today. So leaning into the relationships that you have, leaning into mentorships, I think that's just great advice for anyone. Well, we have covered a lot of great information in a short amount of time. So I just want to thank you, the audience. Thank you so much for continuing to find value in this kind of programming. I definitely hear what you say. And so when y'all email us or message us and ask us to bring certain content to the table, that's pretty much always going to be a yes for me. So keep letting us know what information and what conversations you want to be having. And we want to be that resource that is able to bring together great award-winning agents across brokerages, across price point or perspectives and experience lines to engage in really meaningful conversation. And I can't thank each one of you enough for your time. So thank you to today's panelists. And of course, thanks to today's partners. So Highland Home, South Star Bank, and Total Pro. Yeah, now it's shot time for us. Maybe it's go time for you. But we've got a lot of more great content and programming coming your way in the next month. So stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time. Bye.